Hi there, welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be going over a palette that I just received yesterday, and of course everybody, the buzz is all over the Sephora Pro palettes that were just released this week. There's a warm palette, and then there's a cool palette, and then I think it's called the editorial palette, which is basically more bright colors, that's a little bit more bold and bright and fun colors than in the warm palette or in the cool palette. Now I picked up 2 of the 3 palettes. I'm still waiting on the editorial palette, but this is the cool palette. Yes, for all you ladies out there like myself, they finally released a cool palette. It's like spawning a unicorn in the wild these days because everything is so warm based. So yes, finally a cool palette. I know, I'm so excited. I got it like the first day. I'm like, done. So what I'm going to do is, earlier before I started this video, I did my first eye look with this, which is what I have now. I don't normally do that, but I figured try something new, and so I am. And so I'm going to show you how I got this eye look, and I'm going to let you see how it performed the first time I used it. I have not touched the palette at all. As you can see, it is new to me. So I'm curious to see how this works. So let's test it out. So I'm going to start with, in the first row, the second one in right here. I just like to do this to add just a full coverage to the eyes, just because I feel like it sets the other colors pretty darn well when I do this. Okay, so what I'm noticing is that it's kind of semi-sheer. It is not overly opaque when I use this, which is the second one in here. I was hoping that it would cover it a little bit more than it did, but that's okay. Let's see where it goes from here. So then I am going to use this color in the third row, 5th one in from the left, as a crease color. Ooh, now what I did notice is as soon as I put this in, there was quite a lot of kickback there. So yeah, there's definitely some fallout. Let's see. Goes on nicely though. It's just go into this with a gentle touch is what I am learning. So I did find this to be a really beautiful color. Again though, it's just that, you know, there was a lot of fallout, so I would go in there very gently. So the next thing that I'm going to use is, with this color, let's go with this here. It may be a little bit too close, but let's just give it a try. I tend to always dip my finger in with shimmers and then put them over my lid. That's just my personal preference. You can use a brush if you want, the flat brush. So it's almost too close to the one that I used for the crease. It is a pretty color. It's very similar to the color that I used for the crease, but it is a really beautiful color. A little bit of kick up again when using it. So I'm going to use this darker color right here to give it a little bit of pop on the lid. I'm finding that it's not quite as dark as I would have liked in that corner. It's a very pretty shade, but I just think that the pinks are a little bit similar when on the lid. So now I think I want to add a little bit more dimension in the corner. So I think I am going to use this guy right here for the corner. And again, a little bit of kick up there. So just be wary, light touch. Oh wow. You really want to go in lightly with this because I went in heavy with this eye. And ooh, did it cause a little bit of a mess. This is really pigmented. So go in really slightly when you go in the corner B with these colors, because it is It is very pigmented. Go in there and finish those lines up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is take, ooh, so many goodies. I'm going to take this color here and put a little under here just for lining purposes, just to see what it looks like, to add a little bit of dimension, just because there's so much kind of pink mauvey looks going on that I want to break it up a little bit. I don't want to go too crazy, but I'm going to mix these two and put just a little bit of color under that eye. Oh wow, that is really pigmented. Really pigmented. And then lastly, I'm just going to throw on the mascara and we will go from there. Okay, so this is the final look after everything is put on, the mascara and the eyeliner and a little bit of highlighter, right? Because within the palette there isn't a lot of there's not a lot of light shimmer shades that I think would work well up on the brow. There was this one here, but I just didn't feel like, because it's more of like a beigey color, that it would go with the look that I was going for. So I did bring in the Sephora palette, just so you know that the color under the brow was the first color in the first row up here, and then brought down around for the highlighting effect, just because I didn't want anyone to say, which color do you use for that? I brought in a highlighter just because I felt that it needed it to finish the look that I was going for. But this is the final look. And there are names to these, but they're put on the card. Yeah, which I'm not a big fan of. I wish they'd put it on the actual palette, but it's on the card and nobody really wants to keep these things. So that I'm not a big fan of. But, you know, what are you going to do? So there are 28 shades in this palette, and it runs $68 for the 28 colors. And when I first opened this, the first thing that I noticed was how heavy this thing is. I don't really know why, but it's really sturdy and heavier than I expected it to be. What I will say is, if you know anything about Sephora's own products, is that they do tend to use this black plastic a lot. Now, it's not a deal breaker for me, you know, it's just a very simple, basic aesthetic, but it is plastic. I don't know if this is a turn off for some. For me, I don't care. I mean, I love great packaging if it just happens to be there, but it's never a deal breaker for me if the product inside works well. So then you have the 28 shadows built for you cool tone girls out there. I'm so excited. And varying different colors. When I first opened it, I will say I was surprised at how big the individual pans are, actually. I was quite impressed by that. I expected them to be smaller, but they are not. Because I've been working with a couple of Lorax palettes lately, and as you know, Lorac has smaller ones. These are a lot bigger, and so I think my mind was just used to the smaller palettes and was shocked when I saw these. I mean, they're really a decent size. What I like about it too is that there's a nice amount of shimmers, but there are definitely more mattes in this collection than there are shimmers, which I kind of appreciate, because I usually don't tend to do a whole shimmer look. I really like the matte colors to break it up. So I think this is just perfect for somebody who uses that, like myself. I know some people do a whole shimmer look and it's fantastic. For me, I just like to break it up a little bit, but you know, it's just a matter of opinion. But I really appreciate all the different mattes that are here. What I will say is it is a little bit pink heavy. Just looking at it, it definitely is very pink hue heavy, but no, you know, no complaints. I use pinks and mauves quite a lot. But there are only about 3 blue colors, which kind of well, that one's more of a lavender, but yeah, there's about 3 kind of coal blue or blue colors, which I wasn't expecting. You can count that one too, and then a couple of the neutral colors to put everything together. So just know that there definitely are a lot of pink, red colors in this collection. So the eye look that I'm going with today was obviously from this palette, and working with it, you know, I'll mark which ones that I definitely used. What I will say, and I'm going to swatch the rest of these, is that there was in the mattes, not the shimmer so much, but the mattes, a little bit of fallout. So my advice to you, specifically on this one and also the darker brown here, when I was using these two colors, as soon as I put my brush in, because I'm used to it, there not being necessarily as much fallout in other palettes, I went for it and it definitely brought, you know, some fallout from the individual pans. So just be wary of that with the mattes. So just go in there with a very light touch with your brush and you should be okay, because if you go in there vigorously, you're gonna, you know, end up taking off the full top layer, and you don't want to do that and you're gonna create a mess. But yes, there definitely is fallout in this collection, but if you go into it knowing that, just go in with a light hand and you should be good to go. So what I'm going to do now is swatch the rest of these, because I've only used about 5 of the colors. So going into the first row, which is more of the beigey. Oh, what I noticed immediately is this guy is a little bit grainy. It is a shimmer, it is a little bit grainy. Yeah, this one had a little bit of fallout, which you can see. But the one that was grainy is not showing up that well, which is the fourth one in, right there. The consistency is not very good, and on top of it, it just does not transfer very well onto my arm. Now I'm gonna try these 3, and I am cleaning my fingers in between just because you can't always see what I'm doing. I don't want to cross-contaminate, but so there we go. So this is the first row. I want to hit this one a little bit better. This is the first row. Now, these are the lighter of the collection, so just know that with my skin coloring, a lot of them aren't showing up just because they are light pops of color, and I am a very light pop of color. So these guys right here are not showing up necessarily as much as I would like, but take that into consideration that it's going against my coloring. So that's the first row. Moving on to the second row, which has a little bit more pops of color. So we have these quiet colors in the front. Again, this one, the second one, there is a lot of fallout right there. I just kicked it out. There was a lot of fallout on this one, again, with the matte. Gosh, that's a really pretty pink. I love that. So these are definitely showing up better than the top row. The pink is absolutely gorgeous. This is the first time I'm seeing these swatched as well, so we are learning this together. But that's a really beautiful pink. And then, I'll try some of these. Wow, look at that bright, like burgundy color. That's wild. I think these are swatching quite nicely, actually. I really love that burgundy color. That is just absolutely gorgeous and will be perfect for fall time. Heading on to the third row. Now, I'm not being that cautious because I want to see how much fallout actually occurs with these. Again, this one here has more fallout than the other ones so far. So here we are. This is just a gorgeous color. It's a shimmer and I absolutely love it. It's like this blue, almost lavender. Well, it's kind of like this lavender gray color. Gosh, that is beautiful. So now I'm going to add these guys here. More of the brighter pink spectrum. Again, slight fallout specifically with the bright pink. There you are. There are a lot of pink tones, but wow, they are performing really, really well. So on to the last row. This is where you see a lot of the browns of the collection. Ooh, that one barely showed up. Which one is that? So that's this beautiful color here that I absolutely adored from the beginning, but it really has almost no payoff in it. Yeah, it's almost like completely sheer. When you work it a little bit more, it does show up, and it is a beautiful color, but it really is a semi-sheer color and doesn't have a lot of payoff on it. It's kind of interesting actually, because when I put my finger in it, you can see it, but it's so light. You can definitely build it up, but just know you're gonna have to build this one up quite a bit. And it was actually one of my favorites of the collection, so I'm a little bit disappointed with that. And then lastly, these three. Again, I used this one in the video and it still has quite a lot of fallout, so just be wary of that. And these are the darkest of the collection. There you go. That's actually a very well performing black. Because sometimes you'll get these blacks that are just kind of like charcoal black, but that is definitely black black. That's pretty impressive actually. So I ended up counting these, and so again, there are 8 shimmers in this collection. So there's 8 of them out of 28, which means there's 20 mattes, and 2 of the 8 did not perform well in this palette, and that's this kind of peachy beige color and this beautiful like gray blue color. They do work, it's just they are semi-sheer, so you're going to have to do more build-up for it to work, and even then it is not going to be an opaque sheer color. It's going to be a very semi-sheer. The other 6 worked really well. It's just interesting because with most palettes I feel like the mattes don't tend to perform as well as the shimmers, but that's kind of the opposite in this. So 28 colors, 8 shimmers, 2 don't perform as well as I would like, which leaves 6 decent performing ones. Now as far as the mattes, for the most part I feel like they performed well actually. I think the mattes really are quite beautiful and go on nicely and are very pigmented. Again, there was some fallout issues with a few of these. I know when I was creating my eye look, these 2 definitely go in, as I said earlier, with a lighter touch, because if you go in there really digging with your brush, it is going to have some fallout, and quite a bit of it. But, you know, just go into it knowing that it's like that, and then you can go in lightly and create a look, and you're not going to have the issue. So when I was working on this look, how did it work? It worked really well, actually. I feel like these blended extremely well. I was quite happy with it. They're very pigmented, so again, a light hand is your friend, but working with it in the crease and with the colors on the lid and then on the V and blending it. I know some people use the blending brush, and I will to an extent, but I do like to use my fingertips a lot because I feel like it's just a lot happier on the eyes, because if you get too crazy with the blending, you know, your eyes are the most delicate part of or the thinnest skin on your body. So you want to make sure that they last a lifetime, so take it easy. So I will tend to use my fingertips to do that. And honestly, I did use the blending brush as well, but I feel like it blended really well. The colors blended together well. You know, they didn't turn into like that brown kind of gray color that sometimes happens. I feel like they blended into each other nicely, and I feel like I didn't have to keep going in and adding more color when I put others on top of it, like with some palettes where the original color starts disappearing the more that you work with it. That wasn't the case with this. It was very workable, very blendable. I actually really impressed, because I have used Sephora brand like lip stains and things, more for the lip products and eyeliner, but I've really never used their shadow before, because I'm gonna be honest, I hadn't heard the best reviews on some of them. But when I saw this palette, and it was a cool tone palette, I had to jump on it, and I have to say, I am absolutely impressed with this. I'm very impressed with this. I really love the color scheme. Again, I will say it is a very pink heavy palette. I wish they had put more silver colors in there, you know, some gray shimmer, maybe some blue. I mean, there's this one, but more blue shimmer or silver, just to add a different element to it, because I do feel that there is a lot of pink in here of some sort. Yes, I know this is kind of a peachy pink, but it's still in that pink spectrum, and so there's a lot of pink going on. So if you're not a big fan of that, you know, it may be a little bit of a turn off. I wish it had varied a little bit. I also wish that they had put like a white, like just a standard white color, especially for under the brow bone and things, or to prep the eye originally, because I think that would have been a huge asset to this palette. They could have taken one of the pinks out. Which one I don't know, but they could have taken one out and added that in there, and I think it would have been a solid color palette. That being said, I still think it is. Now, do I think it's worth $68? That is a lot. That is a lot of money for a palette, especially for a name brand of a store. But I have to be honest, yeah, I think it is. For me personally, yeah, I wish it had been a little bit cheaper, but these are big pans. These are big pans, and the quality is really great. And as long as you're not really kicking in the brush, this is going to last you a long time because they're extremely pigmented. So yeah, my first impression is I'm extremely happy with this. I'm really excited to start using this, and what I may end up doing is a follow-up video on this after I've used every single color in this palette, so maybe in 2 weeks, and let you know how they all individually work. But that may be really long, so let me know if you're interested in something like that or if you're not. But my first impression is I love this. I think it's worth it. I'm glad I picked it up. I'm really looking forward to picking up the editorial palette that is in the mail and seeing what that does. But if you were a cool tone girl and you've been living in this warm tone world, because so many palettes have been coming out that are warm tone, be excited, because this really is great, well performing, and I love it. So far, first impression, just using on my eyes today, it was easy to work with, and I'm excited. So let me know what you think, if you picked up any of these and what your impressions were on it. And until next time, have a fabulous week. Bye.